Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today and visiting my channel. I am Stephanie Buckland, and I'm a self-healing specialist. I actually started this channel because I wanted to share all of my wisdom about holistic wellness that I've gained over the last 10 years as a wellness coach. And my goal is to raise your consciousness. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So today's Wellness Wednesday video is a monthly weight loss check-in. Once again, I've lost some inches and I'm going to share that with you. And a little special treat today, I have a little video on how to take your measurements. I'm going to add that in right in the middle of our beginning conversation here. And then we're going to dive into what the heck is holistic movement. So I'm excited to share these things with you. So when I was attending Ventura College, I was working on a holistic health studies degree, and I took a class called Holistic Movement. This was led by one of my favorite professors named Reverend Constance McLean. Now, this class had 5 elements, 4 of which I'm going to be talking about today, and I'm going to add in an element as well. I learned quite a bit from that class, and it led me to do more research and learn as much as I could about all of these different movement experts that Constance introduced us to during that time. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and add in my video here about how to take your measurements, and I'll be right back. Hey everyone, Stephanie here, just to give you a quick rundown of how to do your own measurements. You are going to need, in order to do this, a notepad and a pen and a measuring tape. Now, these measuring tapes come in 1 inches and centimeters. Usually don't take measurements on centimeters, you usually do inches. And basically, so you're going to set up your page in your little notepad, and this is something that I've done actually for quite some time in order to track my weight loss. It's a great way to see your progress. So you set it up. If you'd like to take your weight at this time, that is something you can do. And you set it up to do your neck, your bust, waist, and hips. And then you're going to do the right and left side of your arms. That's going to be your biceps and your forearm. And then in the legs, your thighs or quadriceps and your calves. Okay, so now that you've got all of those spaces written down, now you can go ahead and just take your measurements. Okay, so we're going to start with the neck. So sit up nice and tall. Make sure you've got the 1 inch side of the measurement. And what you do is just wrap it right down the middle of your neck. And I line up that metal part with my fingers and try to just hold that spot, and then I'll write down the measurement. Okay, same with bust. Now you're going to want to do this either you know, if you're female, in a sports bra or just a very little amount of clothing, because you want to get an accurate measurement. And if you're keeping track of your measurements, then you'll probably, as a female, want to wear the same bra every time as well. So you get an accurate reading. So again, lining up that little metal spot with your fingertips and then write down that measurement. Now for the waist, I usually suggest you stand up. And so your natural waist is right now, if you wear your pants as high as I do, these are yoga pants, about where your belly button hits, just above that is where your natural waist is. So standing up, kind of find that spot, take a measurement, make sure that is going straight around and it's not getting caught up on your clothing like it is on me right now. And using your finger, find the measurement, go, and write that down. Again, with the hips, you're going to want to stand up for this. Now the hips, if you find where your hip bone is, so it's going to be right in the middle here, is about where that line is going to go. So right there. And then taking it as tight as you need to. Trying not to go into the skin, of course, but just taut along the body shape. And write that measurement down. Okay. Now for forearms, again, we're going to start at the 1. And if you're doing this at home with someone else, it makes it a tiny bit easier because they can help you. If not, this is how I do it by myself. So I take that measuring tape, take the end of it on this side, and then just pull the other side up around my bicep. Try to get the middle of that bicep muscle and take a measurement there using your finger. Line it up to the closest measurement. That was my right arm, so that's that one. And same with the forearm. Starting from the side and kind of going in the middle of the forearm there. Finger measurement, okay. And then do the other side. Now you might find from one side to the other that they're slightly different. This is nothing to be concerned about. We tend to have larger muscles on our dominant side, and that's simply because we use that side a little bit more than the other. Yeah, I'm right-handed, so as you can see, this is the larger side of my body. That's the similar case with the legs, actually. You're dominant all the way down from top to bottom. So the right side, if you're right-handed, the right leg might also be slightly larger than the left. Nothing to be concerned about. Okay, forearm. Okay, now for the legs, I use a tool. Usually it is something like this. This is just a little step stool, or rather, place to put your feet in front of the couch. And so you put your foot up on the stool, the chair, whatever it is you're using. Kind of use the same technique that you used on your arm. So you put your one side in the inner thigh, and with the thighs, you want to kind of go in between the knee and the hip, right in the middle there, so you get a consistent measurement. Using your fingertip there, okay. That was my right side. And then doing the calf, you can do the exact same thing. And so with the calf, you want to measure the muscle, the middle of that calf muscle there. So just like the bicep, right about there. Okay, and the other side. Okay, now that I have my measurements, what I'm going to do first off is roll up this cute little measuring tape. It stores so much better when it's rolled up than it is when it is just a mess of measuring tape. Of course, that's up to you how you want to store your things, but I just find it to be easier to store and easier to find later if it's kept in a nice little roll. So while we're doing this, part of the reason that I take my measurements, in addition to taking my weight, in a weight loss journey, I've mentioned this before in my videos, but the idea of taking your measurements is really about seeing your progress, not just in the pounds lost, but in your muscle systems and in your body, to see the progress in the numbers. And really, it can make a huge difference in your belief in your ability, your self-efficacy, as it were, your ability to lose weight, and your ability to make progress from week to week. You will probably want to take these measurements on the same day every week. That's just for consistency's sake, but it's also so you space it out a reasonable amount. Every 7 days, completely reasonable. Personally, I take these measurements every 2 weeks because I want to see that progress. Now, once your tape is all rolled up, you're going to want to do some math. And so looking at your measurements now, take a look at your previous measurements and see how much you've lost. So I see with my neck, I haven't lost anything. My bust is actually slightly larger this time. Okay, I've lost about 1 inch in my biceps. And I've lost 1 inch in my thighs. My bust, waist, and hips haven't changed. So with that, oh, actually 1/2 inch in my hips. Okay, so from the time that I measured last, that was October 14th, till today, this is November 11. I have lost 2.5 inches. And so as you can see, regardless of the number of pounds I may have lost in the last month, I can see the progress right there in black and white. I've lost 2.5 inches. It's pretty exciting. Now, getting back to the holistic movement video. Thanks for watching. Okay, welcome back. So, what the heck is holistic movement? Let's just dive right in, shall we? So, holistic movement, according to Reverend McLean, is about honoring your body, mind, and spirit through movement. Many practitioners believe that our body and mind are so intimately connected that we should actually be calling it body mind. Here's a little definition of what that means. So Moshe Feldenkrais talked about habitual movement. Moshe Feldenkrais was a mechanical engineer with a PhD in physics. And due to a chronic knee injury, he studied human body mechanics and became obsessed with function and maturation of the human body, later to develop the Feldenkrais method. He also wrote 5 books about this method. What I learned from Constance about Feldenkrais and the Feldenkrais technique is that we make movements habitually based on how we see our parents or our guardians as young children, how we see them move. We mirror them and replicate how they move, matching them with our bodies. And so a great example would be, say you spent a majority of your time with your grandmother who had scoliosis or some problem with her shoulder, and she walked a little bit like this with her shoulder lifted. As a child, you would actually emulate your grandmother and move just like her. We learn how to be human from the people around us. So naturally, we would end up lifting up our shoulder just like grandma. And eventually, you can see how that would cause some shoulder problems, probably some chronic pain in the neck and the shoulder, all kinds of issues happening just because you're forcing your body to be out of alignment, to hold it like that. We have so much in the way that we move, in the way that we habitually move, that comes from how we learned how to move from a very young age. If we don't get into any kind of athletics or muscle strengthening, any kind of exercise as a young adult or even into later adulthood, we will actually continue to move and hold our bodies in the same way we did as children. I have noticed this personally. I didn't exercise that much as a kid, never really got into sports, and I didn't even get into yoga until my mid-20s. And so I have this thing that I do with my hips, and it's something that I started when I was a young child, and I was emulating my mother. I basically stand with one hip jutted out, my hand on my hip, like a sassy little thing that I was. And so that movement actually translated later on. I noticed when I was sitting in my car, I was sitting kind of cockeyed. And later on in a chiropractor office, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. And there are some theories about scoliosis where you are actually causing the twisting of your spine based on the way you're holding your body, which we'll get into a little bit more of that later on. But I found the Feldenkrais technique, and what I'm thinking after I talk you through this whole video, I'm thinking that later on down the road, we're going to do a movement video and I'll show you how I move based on what I've learned from these classes. So here's a quote from Moshe Feldenkrais. Now, Thomas Hanna was another person that Constance mentioned during the holistic movement class. And she mentioned him because there was a book that she wanted us to read, which we did purchase as a textbook for the class, and we did have to read several of the chapters, and learned all about somatic awareness. Somatic awareness is beyond awareness of proprioception, so that's where your body is in space, to how your body feels in space. So here's a little bit of information from Thomas Hanna's website. Sensory motor amnesia is a condition of chronically tight muscles that basically have learned to stay contracted due to repeated and reflexive response to stress, such as accidents, injuries, surgeries, repetitive tasks, and ongoing emotional stress. The resulting patterns of muscular contraction that develop result in such common conditions as chronic back pain, neck, shoulder, and hip pain, limited mobility, joint pain, poor posture, shallow breathing, and even uneven leg length. Thomas Hanna has developed Hanna Somatic Education, which actually will help relieve a lot of these problems. Here's a quote from Thomas Hanna. Joseph Pilates was another movement expert that Constance taught us about during the holistic movement class. I call Joseph Pilates the self-healing powerhouse. And the reason for that is this was one of the things that I just remember very distinctly from Constance's class. Every single time we said the word powerhouse, we had to engage our core and say powerhouse. So it was much more powerful coming from the gut. And the idea of the powerhouse is really about core strength and what Joseph Pilates eventually called controlology. Joseph Pilates was born in Germany in the 1800s, and according to personal accounts, he was a very frail child, and he suffered from asthma, rickets, and rheumatoid fever. His drive and determination to overcome these ailments led him to become a competent gymnast, diver, and skier. Later on in his life, he was teaching his controlology techniques in various places, ended up moving to the States in the 1920s with his wife Clara, and they opened a facility where they taught this concept of controlology. He had a friend in the hospital, and I'm not sure about the timing of this, but he realized that the biomechanics of his injury, of his friend's injury, could possibly be resolved with his controlology practice, but he had to adapt the hospital bed to give him the movements that he wanted him to do. This was what actually led to the development of his machine called the Cadillac. This is one of my favorite Pilates machines, and it's a very cool thing. You get on this machine and you can basically use your core muscles to move your entire body. Now, what I learned from Constance and what Joseph Pilates taught is that everything we do, every movement we make with our arms and legs actually originates from our core. What is completely out of alignment in our biomechanics is that we will learn how to use our arms and legs without using the core whatsoever and put our body out of alignment. So the practice of controlology, or in what it's called nowadays, Pilates, is to get the body back into core strength. So you're using your core to move every single time. Here's a little quote from Joseph Pilates. Katie Bowman is my final person that we talked about in the course of the holistic movement class. And at the time, we were introduced to a local facility that was teaching Katie Bowman's techniques about alignment. And the local facility is called The Beach. It's located in Ventura. And this concept of proper alignment, Katie calls nutritious movement. And basically, nutritious movement recognizes that not only do we need to move our whole bodies more, but we need to move our individual body parts more. So they combine education on biomechanics, kinesiology, physiology, and natural movement with basic exercises to wake up all of your trillion body parts. Simply put, they help you move your body parts more often and more effectively. And here is a quote from Katie Bowman. Finally, I wanted to mention again Reverend Constance McLean. One of the things that she absolutely loved about teaching this class, and I could tell just by the look on her face, watching her students dance. It was an element of the class that I was most intimidated by because I'm intimidated by dancing in front of other people. However, what I learned from Constance is to move your body and to let go and just let the music move you. And I will be forever grateful to Constance, not only for this idea of moving my body and letting the music move me, but for all of these introductions that she gave us during this holistic movement class about all these movement experts. I learned so much, and I really did dive in and do as much research as I could about these movement specialists and found as much as I could find. I'm going to go ahead and give you links to all of these practitioners, including Constance, in the description below. And I would love to hear your feedback and your experience on any of these practices. If you have a certification in any of them. Now, if you're finding these therapies and these movement practices are something that you're extremely interested in learning about, you can actually do a lot of this through the internet. You can sign up for their classes online. You can find practitioners on YouTube that teach these different techniques. And there are education videos and things that you can purchase through their websites. What I will tell you is the more you learn about your body biomechanics and your physical movement and how you move, your somatic awareness, you will be more in tune with your own alignment. You'll be more in tune with your own body. And in return, your body will thank you, and you'll be more comfortable in your skin and in less pain, which ultimately is something that is a wonderful experience. Personally, I have experienced chronic pain for quite some time in my life, and that is what led me into yoga, what led me into learning all these movement therapies. And as a result, I've created my own movement practice that's kind of blending all of these different therapies into one movement practice. This is a stretching technique that I do on my bed because it's more comfortable on a softer mattress than it is on the floor. And I just move through these movements, and it makes it so my body feels more in alignment and releases a lot of the tension that I hold on to throughout my body. So I will, in a future date, give you a presentation of those movements that I do, but for now I will tell you that the more you can learn about Feldenkrais technique and that method, Thomas Hanna and his somatic awareness practices, and Joseph Pilates, blending these three is enough, but adding Katie Bowman and what she teaches about nutrition movement into your body and how you move, it can just be extremely powerful. With that, I thank you for joining me for my Wellness Wednesdays videos today. Again, I am Stephanie Buckland, the self-healing specialist. You can find me on the socials, which are linked below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. If you would love more of this content, please subscribe and hit the little bell next to the subscription button to receive notifications from the YouTube app about new posts. Thanks for joining me. Blessings to you. Namaste.